Welcome to the Downkirk podcast. This is episode 10. And today we're going to start off our conversation. My friend, Robert Kirkendall III, aspiring director. Or I guess you are a director. You're a director.
Yeah, director.
Yeah, you made short films.
Yeah, exactly. Not aspiring anymore. But
yeah. And today we're going to talk about Sharkboy and Lavagirl. Do you remember Sharkboy and Lavagirl?
I do. Yeah, that came out in like 2006, I believe.
I used to think that the girl who played Lavagirl was the same girl who was in Spy Kids.
I could see that. Yeah.
But they're different. They're different girls, right?
Yeah, they are. I don't know, for some reason in my mind, up until I'd seen it again, because I didn't watch it for a while when I was a kid. That's the last time I saw it was when I was a kid, and then Ariana Grande blew up, and for some reason I thought Ariana Grande was Lavagirl. I like convinced myself that was her when she was a little kid.
I also thought that Sid, the girl from Sam and Cat, just looked a lot like Ariana Grande. I didn't realize that was Ariana Grande.
Isn't it crazy to think like how both her and like Drake blew up afterwards after they were on Nickelodeon shows?
Oh, what show is Drake on?
He was on Degrassi. He played a kid in a wheelchair, actually.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's funny because like that's such a lame way to start being famous. And then like now I feel like he's such a cool, because there's famous people that aren't like cool famous people as much. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But he's like such a cool famous person, I feel like. You know?
Absolutely. And I think it's funny though too, because I was just thinking about like all those Nickelodeon shows from that era are so odd. Like I loved Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. Did you ever watch that one?
I loved that with the black guy named Cookie.
Yeah. That was so funny.
He never missed a day. I remember the episode where he never missed a day of school, from like kindergarten to like wait, were they in junior high or high school?
They're in middle school, I think.
Yeah, so it was from kindergarten to middle school. He never missed a single day of school, and he was like seriously sick. Like he was like pouring, like his shirt was like wet. He had like the V of sweat on him, and he had like sweat dripping from his glasses, and he had like the Kleenexes in his nose. Like he was super sick, and the hall monitor kept chasing him around to try to see if they could find him to kick him out of school.
That's really funny.
Dude, the girl from that, I had a crush on the girl from Ned's Classified. Remember the girl?
Yeah, what was her name?
I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Ned and Cookie, and then I forget the girl's name. Who was the one that it was like Cindy was like Ned's crush?
Cindy. Well, Ned was the main kid who was like way shorter than the girl.
Yeah.
Lindsay Shaw was the girl.
Yeah, but what was her name in the show? It was like
Jennifer Ann. Wait, it doesn't say the whole thing.
Either way, yeah. I remember her being like, I don't know. I remember me always feeling like whenever you'd watch like Ned's Declassified, I was always like, why does he not have a crush on her? Like they're already friends.
Oh, Mose. That's what it is. Jennifer Ann Mose. Yeah. And because her last name was Mosley, so they called her Mose.
Yeah.
Dude.
Do you remember Coconut Head? He had that funny haircut.
It was the hair that wrapped into the beard.
No. He just had like, it literally, his hair was like this, and it was just like a giant helmet on his head.
Yeah, dude. There's so I was always really excited. It says here it was only on from 2004 to 2007.
What, dude? I watched it all the time. I remember watching it a lot.
I watched it a lot. It only had 3 seasons.
Dude, well, now that I think about it though, they were pretty young. Imagine like they're like, dude, we're already 25. Like, where are we still playing middle schoolers? Like,
I feel like that's the problem with the Stranger Things kids. You know? The Stranger Things kids are getting way too old now. I think the girl is like 21 years old, and she's supposed to be like 15. Yeah, it sucks. It's like weird because I thought about that. What if COVID happened when they were making the Harry Potter movies? You ever think about that?
Yeah,
because the Harry Potter movies were like bang, 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 bang. Like it was like one every year.
Yeah, right about.
Well, what the first one was like 2002. I think.
2001, I think. 2001.
2001, and the last one was like 2011.
Yeah.
So it was like 8 movies in like 10 years.
Well, it was really like 7 though, because the one was 7 part 1, part 2.
Did they make part 1 and part 2 simultaneously?
Yeah, they did. I think.
Okay.
But yeah, like what's really cool about Harry Potter? I always say my favorite part about Harry Potter is you actually get to watch them grow up, like progressively.
Did you ever watch the 20th anniversary Harry Potter
on HBO Max?
I watched it on a different site. but
I haven't seen it. No, is it good?
Yeah, dude. And in the thing, they have interviews from everyone who was from like a majority of the cast members that were in all the movies, and they interviewed so there's 3 different directors that directed it. There's a guy who did 1 and 2, a guy who did 3 and 4, and then a guy who did 5 through 8.
Actually, there are 2 different people who did 3 and 4.
What in the thing it said they had 1 guy.
Oh well, they had Alfonso Cuarón did 3, and then Mike Newell did 4. Which, by the way, 3 and 4 are my favorite though.
Maybe I was confused because they both both of those guys were in the documentary, and they both talked about 3 and 4 a lot. So maybe I got them confused.
They could have worked. They could have like tried to work together though. You know what I mean? They could have been like, "Hey, look, I'm signed on for 4. You know what I mean? Could I watch? Should I just be on set? You know?"
I think that's probably what happened. But yeah, in the movies, they're in the documentary, they talked about how Emma Watson, after like the 4th one, she thought about just not doing Harry Potter anymore.
Wow.
Like, she thought about just like getting out of the contract and like finding a way out of it, because she said she loved doing Harry Potter and it was a great thing for her, but she had like a lot of anxiety and she didn't like having her child. She felt like her childhood was on display for everybody, like,
yeah.
And she didn't like being in the spotlight, and like all these little girls like looked up to her and stuff, and she felt like a lot of pressure just kind of coming down on her because she was like the main girl,
Oh yeah. She's definitely the one thing they did really well in Harry Potter is all the castings on point. Like I love a lot of the casting choices.
Rupert Grint as Ron, like he was born for that. He was born to be Ron. Like
yeah, it's crazy to me to think he really hasn't even been in anything. Like really, like he's done the least of all 3, the 3 main kids.
He was in a movie called Moonwalkers, which was bad. It was not good. And then he was in another movie called Into the White, which is a true story about like an Allied and an Axis fighter pilot that crashed in the Alps, like way up north or something like that.
Yeah.
And they had to like survive together during war. And I never saw it, but I want to. I've been wanting to see it forever. But
yeah, you really like survival movies, don't you?
I love, dude, The Edge. You ever see The Edge?
I have seen The Edge, yeah.
Dude, I love The Edge. It's he kills. Imagine killing a bear. Wait, spoiler alert. Imagine killing a bear without a gun. You don't have a gun. Like you have a knife. That's it. You have a knife, and you have to find a way to kill the bear. And the bear is not just a bear that like he's on that side of the forest, I'm on this side of the forest kind of bear. Like, oh, the bear's gonna steal your picnic basket. Like, no, like this bear is hunting you.
So someone should edit into that movie like it's Yogi Bear instead, and he's like, whoa, hey, Babu, and he like walks up and he just stabs him. He stabs Yogi Bear.
Dude, they did that on Family Guy. Do you remember in Family Guy, Peter was the park ranger, and he like put his hand over Yogi's mouth and like stabbed him in the back, and he's like, shh, shh, shh. And then Yogi Bear died, and then he left Boo Boo alive, and he's like, tell your other bear friends.
That's funny. It's crazy. I was thinking about this. I think I've only seen one bear.
You've actually seen a bear?
Yeah, but it's like from a distance, you know what I mean? Like I didn't see it like, you know what I mean? Like real up close. I saw it from like, they're like, oh, that's a bear over there,
Black
like,
bear or brown bear?
I don't know. It was too far away, I think, to like tell. But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like when you see a bear though, or like bears, they always just have this like, there's this intensity that comes with seeing a bear. You know what I mean? It's like seeing a great white. You know what I mean? Like you're always kind of like, checking out. You're always like looking to make sure it's not too close.
I don't know. I feel way safer. Like if I was in a boat and I saw a great white right up next to the boat, I would still be like, I'm on the boat. I'm like, like
Have you never seen
I'm not
Jaws?
swimming.
Have you never seen Jaws?
Jaws is very important. Yeah, it's very important to think about. Yeah, like I love the guy from the old captain from the first Jaws. The
Yeah,
guy's
Robert
like,
Shaw, I think is his
what's
name.
his name?
Robert Shaw, I think, is the actor's name.
Oh, dude, Robert Shaw's character is so awesome. He's like, you don't know what the seas have brewing. Like that's his. Was he the first like old sailor, like stereotype character? Was he the first guy to be
I
like
can't
that?
imagine. I can't imagine. I feel like what's funny is that like a lot of those like
The old man by the sea
yeah,
type of
yeah,
stereotype.
those old sailors. I feel like a lot of those come from books. You know, like Treasure Island. A
I
lot of
meant
those.
like in film though. Do you think he was the first one personified in film?
Well, no, because Treasure Island was made in like the '60s.
Did they have like an old sailor guy in that one too?
Yeah, I mean that's what I think. That's like just such a. I mean, it's like the old master, right? Like in kung fu movies, like that's always been a thing.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Dude, I remember I watched the first Jaws and I liked it, so I watched Jaws 2. Jaws 2, there is a scene where these girls are on like a little raft or something and they're screaming because the shark's about to kill them. They scream so loud and so long that I was rooting for the shark. I was like, please end this. Please end this. Like, please let this shark jump out of the water and decapitate these people so they're not screaming. They screamed right into the camera. It was like a 4-minute shot of them screaming.
That's crazy. I feel like that's what's funny though. I always tell people movies. I mean, I've told you about this. Where like I have to care about the characters because like I watched Tenet when it came out like in 2020, and I remember seeing it. And I remember like the whole point of the movie is like, oh well, you don't want oh well, you want the character to like save the day and like you want all the people to survive, and it got like to where like I didn't care about any of the characters at all, and I was like, I like just let them die, right? Like that might be better for the movie. Like why, you know what I mean? It was just so weird how like you didn't care about anything the whole time. Like it had cool action and stuff, but it just I don't know. It was just really weird. And
It's nice. Yeah, dude. It's like me and you talk about natural born killers. And the reason why we like it so much is because you really shouldn't like the main characters because they're serious. It's about two serial killers that fall in love. But by the end of the movie, you're like, please kill everyone you have to kill so that the two of you can end up together. Like, isn't that how you were feeling at the end? Like,
oh, yeah, dude, absolutely. And on top of that, I think it just helps that Robert Downey Jr. in that's hilarious. Like everybody in that movie is great, but I love Robert Downey Jr. in that one because he's so funny.
It's funny how he started the like when he was with the serial killers. He started out very conservative, like all right, like let's get in here, get our shots, get out, like let's. And then he ended with him being so intense that he was like he got out of control and he started killing people. Like he started cutting people's heads off. The guy's like, whoa, like you need to stop.
Dude, that reminds me. Have you seen the movie Mother with Jennifer Lawrence?
No, I haven't. Is it a horror?
Yeah, kind of. It's not necessarily. Actually, it's really well known for like not being a movie that people liked a lot. But I think it's because people didn't really understand it. And I think one of the like key points is that like it really inspired the music video for "This Is America," which probably a lot of people would say is the best music video of the 2010s. But anyways, there's a scene though. What happens in the movie? The reason why the movie's really odd is because it ramps up so out of nowhere. But it's so funny. Like 1 minute, this girl's like doing like a book signing, like she's the book agent, and she's like, "Oh yeah, like we're totally gonna get together and we're gonna do lunch." It all takes place in a house. And she's like, yeah, we should get together and do like a lunch or something, right? And she's like, oh, by the way, I figured I'd invite a couple of friends over. We'd have a party, right? Well, anyways, a bunch of people come over, right? She like a crazy, copious amounts of people. And it gets to the point to where like now like the main character is like getting overwhelmed. It's just Jennifer Lawrence. And so she's like walking around and she's trying to find the book agent to tell everybody to leave, or she's trying to find somebody. I can't remember. But anyway, she walks in and she opens the door and she sees the book agent, and the book agent is blindfolding people, lining them up against the wall and like and killing them one by one with a gun.
What?
Out of nowhere, dude. Like it just escalates out of nowhere. You're like, what? She's like, oh yeah, sorry about that. Like, I just got busy. It ramps up to like the nth degree. It is absurd. And
Oh my gosh.
it's horrifying, but I also find it really funny just because it's such a normal movie and then it goes so crazy so fast.
Those moments are insane. Like there was a moment like that. Do you care if I spoil a little bit of 355?
Go ahead. It's okay.
Okay. Yeah. So 355. Spoiler alert. But so there's a scene where there's these four women. The main. It's about four women, all from different countries.
Yeah.
There's a woman from Africa, a woman from like Germany, an American, and like an Asian lady, or like I think she's Colombian. It was Penelope Cruz. She was one of them, and the guy has them there all in the apartment that they're in, the bad guy, and he's like, tell me the codes, or like something like that, and they're like, no, and then he just puts on a webcam, and it's the four of them, and like they're four of them, like their families are on the webcam, and he's just like, do it, and then they just kills like all, like just except for like Penelope Cruz's family. She's like the only, because she's the only one that has kids and a husband. The rest of them just had like a fiance or a husband, but like she's the only one that had kids. And I was like, holy crap, like you skipped so many steps in like the torture thing. You asked them one time and then you killed everybody. Like
that is so it reminds me, we were talking about that in the second Ace Ventura where they just skip. I love how when they just skip like a lot of steps. So like the little fan stops working in the rhino, and then all of a sudden like the next shot of him is he's just naked. He's completely naked and he's drenched in sweat.
Dude, the rhino scene is like the funniest scene in like all of movie history. It's like one of the funniest scenes ever.
It's definitely the funniest Jim Carrey scene. It's just it's funny to see his face like stretch out of the Also, realistically, why would that be the only entrance and exit? Like, I would want to see him get in the rhino if that's the only entrance. You know what I mean?
To say that mechanical rhino had some design flaws is an understatement. To say like that mechanical rhino was like there was some things they should have done differently. Yeah, for sure.
They spent all that money on a mechanical rhino. They couldn't even get like a little door. They couldn't even just have like a normal door.
We're gonna put you in a metal rubber rhino, and it's gonna be as secure as a bank safe on one side, and then the other side is gonna be just a flat rubber sheet with a little dime-sized hole.
That's like we're gonna crawl in and out of that. By the way,
that's the emergency exit. Like what? I would feel bad for the rhino if I was one of the kids. This thing's getting split open in the back. Dude, the second one was better than the first one. I loved like the first one was really good, but dude, the second one was like 10% better. I think.
I think the first one had a better story, like a better I liked the plot a lot better in terms of like the mystery and trying to solve it. But in terms of funny scenes, I think the second one had a way funnier scenes.
I just remember him like the opening scene of the first one is so good when he's the UPS man and he's just crushing this box. He's just like destroying the box, he's letting the elevator close on it and he's kicking it down the hallway, which he didn't need to do. He could have just that wasn't a part of the funny thing is that wasn't a part of his character. Like he's an under the cover UPS agent, like a UPS delivery guy. Like
no, that's true. It's funny because I think that's what that tells you in that scene, right? Like it starts off with him doing that because you're like, this isn't a guy who's about to get fired, right? Like this is either a guy who does not care about his job at all, or a guy whose job this is not his job, which it clearly wasn't. I think I like the first one a lot because he basically is like he plays like 1,000 different characters in that one. Do you remember he has to get like he has to check all the rings because he has to see if the AFC Championship ring has the diamond in it or if it's missing. And there's that one where the guy's like running on the track and he's like running with him at first. And then he takes a chloroform route and he puts it like over the guy's head. He could have just asked to see his ring. Like it's not even a big deal.
And then he like slapped a dude's butt in the shower and then he got punched in the face and he was counting the stones.
Yeah, exactly.
The
chloroform rag dude is funnier though, because that's like a crime. Like that would get him in a lot of like trouble.
Or the one where he went to like the bathroom in the nice party and he like fell into the shark tank in the back. Yeah. Dude, there's so many funny scenes. It's like I don't know. It's like they haven't really made a zany comedy like that in a long time. Where it's like let's just have a scene that makes no sense and it's not a part of the plot, but it's just like it's hilarious. Like you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like. I think that comedy style is kind of like been done with. Like, do you remember when we were younger? Like right around, I mean, like, because they happened a lot, but like they had Scary Movie. Do you remember Scary Movie? They had Scary Movie on, and that was like a huge like thing, you know, like this whole like spoof, you know what I mean, kind of style or
That's
parody.
like a spoof. That's
Yeah,
like, yeah, really, really like where you know it's a spoof going in.
yeah. Well, that's what I mean though, is that like that whole styling's gone away for some reason. Like it kind of fell out of popularity.
I love the Leslie Nielsen Naked Gun
Oh,
airplane
yeah.
style of comedy, like where everything. Like there was a scene in one of the Naked Guns. I just rewatched them all, where the guys, where like the bartender gives him the drinks, and he's got like an apron, and he's got like a shirt, and he turns around, and it's just his bare butt cheeks are just showing. Like, and it's like they don't need to do that. That's not a part of. That's not a part of the thing.
Dude, you know what I've been really hoping for though? That's so funny because I love Naked Gun. But what I've been hoping for is that Mel Brooks would do another movie because he hasn't done a movie in a while.
He's like 180 years old. Okay.
I mean,
He's
but
like,
dude, he's so. I want him to do one. I want him to do one about the new Disney Star Wars movies. I bet he would tear him to shreds.
oh, dude, he would. He would totally. Oh, man. Like how like the story just doesn't make any sense. How like everything just starts and ends in weird places. How they bring back characters from different movies. It's like,
Dude, instead of Spaceballs, it would be called Space Dumb because that's
yeah,
how.
yeah. Yeah, dude. Well, me and you were talking about how the best spoofs are the ones where you don't know it's a spoof, like Johnny Dangerously or Austin Powers movies, like where I didn't even think about it being a spoof. I just thought about it being a fun, zany comedy, like you know.
I feel like Austin Powers is a little more open about it, but I feel like even like you look at something like Shrek. Shrek's a really good example too of something that's like not necessarily like it's like a spoof, but like a parody of all those like fairy tales. But it's so funny. You know what I mean? It's so.
Yeah.
I also really love. Have you seen Starship Troopers?
Yeah, where they fight the aliens.
Yeah, dude.
The insect aliens.
Yeah, that's a parody, and nobody in like that's like making fun of like the of that whole like fascist culture of like Europe because that's why at the end, you know, the end with Neil Patrick Harris where he comes out and it's like basically a Nazi uniform without a swastika on it. Like,
I don't
it's
remember that scene.
yeah, he comes out though, and it's like it's like they actually said they basically just pulled the Nazi uniform without a swastika because obviously they'd be like, you know,
Too spot on.
yeah, right, yeah. So, but he said though that like the reason why I really like it is because it works so well as a normal movie. Like if you didn't know it was a parody, it would still be a pretty good movie.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing is that there were
I
so
should
many
say,
elements of it that made it more real. Like there were so
yeah,
many heartfelt moments. There was like a real romance going on. There was
for
like
sure.
action and like they showed like people training intensely. That like none of that was really a part of the spoof. I think maybe the
Yeah.
whole story as a whole.
Well, I think there are parts of it. I should have said satire, by the way. Satire is actually what it is, not parody.
I could see satire more. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a satire, and like I think you see that in the training exercise where like it just go like one thing goes wrong. Do you remember that when they're training and one thing goes wrong in the training exercise, and then it leads to like this this horrendous murder? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Well, it's like the guy was just being dumb and like first of all, like the idea that you would send recruits to train to shoot each other with live rounds, like it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy to think about. And then the guy takes his helmet off for like 1 second, and then he gets shot in the face. And then the guy gets whipped because it's his fault. And it's like I don't know. It's like it's a bit much. Like
imagine if that was still around, like the whipping. Like imagine if you're like, yeah, I stole a candy bar from Walmart. I'm gonna have to get 10 thrashings now in town square.
That's what I thought was weird. It's like everything else is so advanced, so like high up, so like in the future. But then when it comes to the whipping, that's like you're going back like 400 years. It's like, why is that the one thing you brought back from the past? You got like robot legs, but you're still whipping people.
Well, dude, there's that scene where the guy's like Rico. What's his name? Rico Johnson? No, Johnny Rico.
Johnny Rico.
Yeah, that's such a funny thing. Yeah, but there's that scene though where he finds out that he's going to the infantry. And,
mobile infantry.
Yeah. And then that guy's like, well, the infantry made me who I am today. Made me the man I am today. And you see every single limb on his body is robotic. Like he doesn't have he's just a stump with just robotic limbs.
He's got like an eye patch and like a scar like down his face.
Oh man, but
yeah, dude. There's that were kind of, you know, that movie kind of reminds me of Doom. Remember Doom?
Yeah, Doom with Dwayne the Rock Johnson,
where he like explodes into an alien at the end of the movie. That was so funny.
Doom was pretty cool. Was that the Rock's first movie?
It had to be one of his first movies because he still would have been WWF at the time, I think.
When did WWF, by the way, make the transition to WWE?
So someone told me they were actually in a legal battle with the World Wildlife Fund. And the World Wildlife Fund is like, we're WWF first. And then so that's why they changed it. I don't know if you knew that.
Wow.
Yeah, World Wildlife Fund.
You know, it's also, I was just thinking about how wrestling used to be about like, I don't know, it used to be like really cool. And then now it's like, I don't know, it's like now it's more about the storylines. Like they're trying to like build this, like make a TV show out of it. Like I remember as a kid too, they had these weird, so I actually looked it up because I was looking at like worst storylines for like WWE of all time. And like one of them was like, this guy basically like stole this man's wife. He impregnated her and then he got married to her. You know, and then like, I'm like, what? You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty intense.
Like, man, like at some point, it's like, I think they're just a new family now.
Like, even then, it's crazy to me because I, like, as a kid, I was like, that's not how it works. Like, this is just, like, this is why, like, shouldn't he be in prison? Like, there's, like, surely.
Like, legal repercussions for this? Yeah. Like, I don't think you should settle it in the ring. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
that's what I mean. It's just a wrestling. Could you imagine like if America and like another country went to war? They're like, all right, basketball game, 1-on-1 right now, and it was Joe Biden versus Putin or something. First to 21.
Winner gets to line up everyone up in the other country and shoot them right in the face. The winner of this basketball game gets to line all 145 million Russians up.
Did you imagine though? Like that's how we decided things. You know what we should do though? If someone wants to be like president or I guess just the head of the government, they should do, if they want to go to war with the country, they should do like a mano a mano, like head of state versus head of state. You know what I mean? Like it's like a jousting contest.
I'm not gonna lie, Putin would destroy Biden. Biden would turn into like a powder.
Well, what's weird to me is that we've had, I mean, since Obama, we've just had the oldest presidents imaginable.
How old was Obama when he became? Wasn't he like in his 50s? He was in his 50s.
Like 50-ish.
He was like one of the younger ones though. He's like I want to say he was like the fourth youngest ever or something like that. He was
well, that's what I mean, is that like we went from like a pretty young president. Even George W. Bush was pretty young.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he didn't have gray hair at the start. I don't think either of them did, Obama or except for neither did Trump. But that's because he was dying like crazy. I didn't realize he's like mostly bald. That hit in the middle, this chunk, there's no hair growing, so he just grows all the hair out, and then he floats. Because have you seen him in the wind, where the wind blows it?
Yeah.
And it's just, I think that's so hilarious. But I mean, it still covers his head. I mean,
it is super funny. What's weird to me though is, like I said, we just had the two of the oldest presidents we've ever had back to back.
It'd be nice to see. I mean, regardless of who makes it in, it would be nice to see a younger person be in. Even if you're like 55, which 55 compared to most people is old. You're older than most people at 50.
Yeah,
but like,
well, that's true.
Because you got to think, even if you start at 60, by the time you're done, you're 68 years old. You're still like if you do 8 years. Whereas like if you're 50, if you're 55, by the time you're done, you'll be 63. So you still be like, you'll have your wits about you. And that's actually perfect timing. If I had to choose, like if I had to choose a time, if I were to be president, I think perfect would be like 55, 58. Because then if you do 8 years, that's right around the time where you'd want to retire anyway. Right around like mid-60s.
That's true. That's true. I feel like one thing that'll never happen is a president who's 35. Like,
I don't know. It's weird. I think it's too young. I think they should move it up to 40.
Yeah. Could you imagine being 35? Like, yeah, I'm on my second kid, also I'm running a country. That just seems a lot.
It's like you were working on your doctorate like a few years ago. You know what I mean? Like if you were getting your PhD. That's another thing. Like I never went to college. Like I never got my degree, but like I feel like it would make sense just to like weed out other candidates to be like you have to have a PhD or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of already happens, right? Like even, I mean, just like, I mean, the only president I think to actually be president without a college degree in the modern history is Truman.
Yeah, because Trump had a college degree.
Yeah, from Pennsylvania, U of Pennsylvania. Harvard is where Obama went. Yale is where George W. Bush went. I forget.
He went to Harvard and Yale.
Oh, he did. I forget where Clinton went to Arkansas, or that has something to do with. I think
he go to the wherever the Razorbacks are.
I feel like I don't know if that's his alma mater though, because I know he also went to like Yale or some. They all go to law school. I mean, at some point, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if do they all used to be lawyers? You think? I mean,
no, I just think it helps to know the law. Like, if you're going to become like in that, like, how do you? Is there like you go for political science, right? But like, is there like that would be really funny if there was like a like politician specific degree.
Yeah, that'd be weird. Like how to trick the stock market in your favor or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like have you seen I wish they make better movies about like about becoming president. Like there was that one Head of State which was all right with Chris Rock.
Yeah, that was hilarious. The scene where Bernie Mac gets off the train and he just starts slapping people in the face for no reason. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I love
dude.
What's his face? Tracy
Morgan.
Tracy Morgan was in it, and at the end where Chris Rock gives that great speech, he goes in there and he's like, everybody's like, woo, everybody's like cheering, and it shows Tracy Morgan at like the gas station watching him, and he's cheering too, and he's like, now Maury's gonna come on because he's excited because after this speech, Maury was gonna come on. Which, by the way, dude, have you seen Maury before?
I don't think I have. Maury Povich.
Yeah, Maury Povich. That show is so weird.
That's the one where they're like, you are the father.
Yeah.
Or you are not.
Could you imagine being a kid on that show? Like now you're like, like you're your age, right? And someone's like, hey, dude, by the way, you're a Maury. Right. And then you see your dad like, no, that's not my kid. That's not my kid, And you're like, he finds out that you are his kid and he starts crying. Like,
Yeah, that would be insane, dude. Or like you find out your mom is there and you're like, this guy is the father. And then turns out you are not the father. And you see a grown man, do the worm on stage. He does the worm because he's not your dad. Like, they do dance moves. They
always bring on people too, though. They'll bring on people on there that are like the craziest. Like they know what they're doing. They'll go on there and they'll be like, I've slept with 129 men in 3 days, or I mean, you're like, what? You're like, that's not even possible, And they're always like, in 3 months, I've had 90 different partners, and this is who I think is a father, right? And everything like, why are you going on TV like announcing this? Like, even as a kid, I was like, you shouldn't be something you're like proud of. It's funny too because I think Jerry Springer came on before Maury. Like they like, like Jerry Springer was like the the appetizer. Because at the end of Jerry Springer, they let them like beat each other up, right? But then at the end of it, Jerry's always like, well, here's the lesson to be learned, right? Is that, like love is love and we should be more kind, And then at Maury though, it's just like you are the father, you're not the father. That's it.
Yeah. People like seeing people that have like more messed up lives than theirs. It's like hilarious. I don't know. That's like what TLC is, like with the My 600 Pound Life people.
Oh, yeah.
Or the 1,000 Pound Sisters. Did you ever see that? That was a show. It's like
what's crazy to me too, though, is that it is really those are really interesting things too. Like I like Maury. I'm both against Maury and I'm for Maury. I think it's a good thing.
Every time I watched Maury, I never watched it on purpose. It's always like I was flipping through the channels when I was younger, and then it's like, oh, there's Maury, and I guess it's just now I'm watching it now. Like I don't know, like it's it's like kind of like Judge Judy or like the TV judges. It's like I never like loved watching those, but like if I was sick at home or if I was like at home on a Saturday, it's like if it was on, I'll just watch it. Like why not? It's like the TV judges.
Yeah, I feel like you're right. For me, see, I kind of liked Maury a lot when I was a kid, but I totally agree with you about like Judge Judy. You kind of just catch him on, or Judge Joe Brown. Any of those judges, which by the way, how
Yeah.
real, like, have you ever noticed how they're like the way their courts work is so different than how like I feel like courts should work. Like they go in there and they're like, this guy's like, yeah, this is like my house and this tenant didn't pay me my money, right? And she's like, well, did you care for her? Did you take care of stuff? And he's like, no. And they're like, well, you're an idiot. Get out of here. Leave my court. Bye.
But the thing is that those are real. So small claims court is very similar to that, like real small claims court, where there's no jury, there's no like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
And they can only award sums of up to $5,000, and like so the real people, they offer to like pay for court fees if they can like go and if they're willing to go and do the thing. So it's like real people. But
Yeah.
I love the guys who are like, this guy like, borrowed my car and, my windshield and my bumper got smashed up. And then now he's not going to pay for it. And then the other guy, there's always the other guy who's like, yeah, but that guy sucks. But that guy's a jerk. He's like really mean. There's always like an argument like, but that guy's like not a cool person. Like
that's what I mean. Is that like it just seems like that doesn't even work. It's not, it reminds me of like when you were a kid and you're like, this kid hit me. And the other person's like, I didn't hit him. And if I did, then it was because he was being stupid. And then the teacher's like, all right, listen. You know what I mean? It just feels like you're like settling disputes among like children. You know what I mean? Like the way these like people act sometimes, you're like, is that real? Like, did they, you know what I mean? Like this one girl was like, I'm really mad at my man, and I want to get like blah, 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 because, of A, B, C, and D. Right. And they're like, well, what evidence you have? Right. And she's like, well, this man would give me a full course breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. He was trying to get me fat, just so I couldn't leave him. Right. And Judge Judy was like, what are you talking about? Like, he would make you food every single day and you're complaining about it. And she's like, yeah, but you don't get it. She's like, it would be, and she would like go into all the food that he would make. And I just started thinking like, is this for real? Like you couldn't just solve this some other way. Like you had to go to court. You had to like waste everybody's time here just so you know what I mean?
It's like the scene in Naked Gun when Leslie Jones is like, he's in prison and he holds up the champagne and he's like, the Chateau LeBlanc is supposed to be served in a chilled glass. It's room temperature. And then he like smashes it down. It's like, dude, you're getting champagne.
Well, exactly. And I don't know, it just always seemed like such a little kid show, like definitely something that, not to be mean, but like daytime television, like it fits right in, right? Like it definitely fits that time slot. I mean, they have soap operas right next to them, which by the way, soap operas. Yeah.
Entertainment Network, remember E?
Yeah.
People would just be at home watching like, here's who's Taylor Swift is dating now, It's like you're like, I guess I'll just watch this. I don't know.
I feel like though, like those shows are just designed to create the most amount of drama. You know what I mean? And it's funny to me because like even soap operas, they're designed literally, why they're called soap operas is because they're designed to sell advertising, like for basically like housewives would stay at home and they watch TV during the day, and it was designed to sell like specifically like soap products, right? So like detergent, things that like consumers would buy, or the housewife at the time would buy, and that's why they're called soap operas. But I think it's so funny because like those things escalate so quickly. Like how many times do you see somebody have cancer, get pregnant, or like randomly die, like out of nowhere? You know what I mean? They're like, oh, Julio is cheating on me, and they're like, I'm gonna go kill her, and then they go kill her, and then they find out that the girl they killed was pregnant. So they need to still give birth to the baby. And then because of all the stress, the baby now has like a rare disorder where it's paralyzed. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh my God.
The worst thing ever. It's always like the worst combination of events that could possibly happen. It's like
nothing ever gets better. There's no happy happy ever after.
Like if you met a guy who's like who told you the story and he had a soap opera life, like in real life, you'd be like, yeah, so my wife got pregnant by another dude, and then when she was on the way to the hospital, she got hit by a car, paralyzed from the waist down, and the baby's like has autism, and then that baby died of cancer, and then my wife died of cancer, and then my dad and my mom, and guess what? They died of cancer too, and it was all like in like a 1 month span. It was like insane. And I'd be like, holy crap! I would be like, holy crap! Like that's the most insane thing ever. Like, I would be like, dude, you need to buy a lottery ticket, man. Your luck's gonna change.
Dude, I bet a huge inspiration for those soap operas was just Job's life. when everything went downhill for Job so fast.
Oh, dude, Job had it so bad. Dude, so many people have made jokes about how like the fact that God let Job's wife live, just to like he let Job's wife live just so Job's wife could be like, she literally said, "Curse the Lord and die." That's what she said. Just curse the Lord and lay down and die. I'm like, that's the worst thing ever. Like, oh my gosh.
Have you seen that movie called The Serious Man?
I've seen parts of it. And I never got to finish it because it was super slow and boring.
Yeah.
Like first
it
part
is pretty
at least
slow.
The first like 45 minutes were, at least that's the part that I watched.
Yeah, it is really slow, and it's not. I wouldn't say it wasn't boring to me, but it was pretty slow. But there's this really funny scene where, or the whole movie though is really funny in the sense of like he just has all these things happen to him, and he never knows why. Like that's the whole point of the movie, is that like you just got to accept things that you can't understand, and like that's a fair like meaning, but like at the same time it was so funny because like there's this one scene where he's like, his son had ordered Santana Abraxas, which on a vinyl, and he had to pay for it. And he's like, I don't want to pay for Santana Abraxas. I don't want Santana Abraxas. And he's like talking to the person on the phone, and he's like, I don't want Santana Abraxas. I didn't order Santana Abraxas. And he just keeps yelling at him about Santana Abraxas. And it is so funny just to hear him say that. I imagine, like, could you imagine someone like say you got delivered a pizza and you had to pay for it, right? And like, here's your pepperoni pizza, right? And you're like, I don't want pepperoni pizza. Like, I didn't order it. I'm not paying for it. And they're like, here's your pepperoni pizza. And you're like, I'm not.
Like if they just keep saying it.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know. You don't get it. I'm not paying for it.
Yeah, that's what happened to my dad at a. It was something similar like that happened at a Sam's Club. We were at a Sam's Club where you can like order pizza and stuff. And he ordered a pizza, like a full pizza made with extra pepperoni.
At Sam's Club, you can get a full pizza?
Yeah, you can. So you know how you can buy the individual slices? You can also just order a full one. And so he ordered a full one, and it was and he ordered extra pepperoni, and they charged him for extra pepperoni, but they put like one pepperoni per every like 4 slices. It was like the smallest amount. Like the pepperoni was like cut into 4 pieces, and that counted as one. He's like, "Hey, I ordered extra pepperoni," and the guy's like, "Oh, sorry." And then he just like set the pizza down and left. And the guy's like, and then my dad took the pizza to him. He's like, "No, like, put more pepperoni on it." Like the guy's like, "Man, that sucks that you have to deal with that." Like, can you imagine if that happened to you in the drive-thru? Like some guy's like, "Hey, I ordered no mayo," and you put mayo on it, and you're like, what are you gonna do? Like, you'd be like, "Dude, fix the sandwich." Like,
yeah, when people can do something and you're like, like,
man, it sucks that you have to deal with that.
Yeah,
like, it's like
it's worse than like you did order no mayo.
And man. I didn't do that. I put it on there anyway.
I didn't care. You did order no mayo, and I purposely put mayo.
We got to get rid of our mayo. We have too much mayo. It was like the scene in South Park do you remember the scene in South Park where the guys from Dish, it was like the cable guys, were like, "Hey, I ordered cable and it's not working." Like, "Oh, is that difficult for you?" And they started rubbing their nipple. And they're like, "Oh, that must be really difficult." Oh, my wife's looking at me.
Oh. Yeah. Because you were talking about pizza a second ago. What's the best place you've had pizza at?
Sam's Club is like one of the best pizzas I've ever had in my life.
Okay, but wait, is the Sam's Club like the frozen pizza or the one that you order in the store?
Yeah, no, the one that you get at the Sam's Club cafe. I'm not an animal, you know.
Some frozen
pizza.
Some frozen pizza is really good, but even frozen pizza at its best is only as good as pretty good pizza.
The best frozen pizza I've ever had is still like a 4 out of 10, probably from a regular pizza place.
Yeah.
And then, but I've had like really good New York style pizza, like in New York. Me and my dad had this thing when we went to New York. We were traveling across country where every time we saw a pizza place, we'd have to get 1 slice, no matter what. We walked by like 20 or 30 different pizza places, so we ate like tons of pizza, and it was nice. It's cool. It was good.
I'd say at some point you're probably like, "Oh God, pizza! I gotta get 19."
It was like Let's not walk down that street. I can see two more. let's walk the other way. It got to the point where you walked by a pizza place. You're like, damn it.
you start praying to God, please don't let them place.
We get like a scooter, because we get so fat. And we're like, don't.
No. Actually, go ahead. I think you were in the middle of your story.
Sorry, no, but no, I finished the Sam's Club story. But my best pizza I've ever had is like so weird, because for me, I can name like some of the best burgers I've had, but pizza for me, it's almost like a 30 or 40 way tie, because so many of them, there's like certain things I like in pizza, and if a place just does it, then that's the place I like. You know what I mean? Some places, like I like a droopy, floppy pizza. I like it to have lots of grease. I like it to be thinner ish, and then if it tastes good, it tastes good. It's like,
yeah,
it's hard for me to determine like one over another sometimes with pizza, because they're so similar.
That's true. I feel like, to me, so the categories I kind of want, like, that's funny you say that, because I think the perfect pizza is like cheesy, obviously, right? Obviously cheesy has to go in there. I think it's also crispy. I like crispy pizza, but I also like a thick pizza, which is really difficult to do.
Yeah, apparently thick pizza was like not Papa John's, sorry, Pizza Hut. They were like the first ones to do like a thick pizza. Like they, for the dough recipe for their pizza, they actually looked up a breadstick recipe and used that doughy, thicker recipe for the pizza, because all the other pizza before that in New York was all really thin. They were like the first ones to go. Because if you think about it, pizza and like normal pizza is kind of like, it's like that thick, but it's not like deep dish thick, but it's not like New York style.
That's true. That's true. I like the New York like crispy when it's like thin, right? But I also like the deep dish of a Chicago, right? Like that's what I want, some like kind of
in between.
Yeah. But I also really love if it has to be hot. Like, I mean, like piping hot. I think the hotter the pizza, the better. Like if you get a pizza straight out the oven and you just like pop that bad boy right in your mouth, you know what I mean? Like, it is so good. I don't know what it is. I think
I guess I would say the most nostalgic for me is the this is a little inside for people who don't live in Kansas City, but or even if you don't live in Olathe, you might not know the original pizza place that used to be in the Great Mall.
Yeah.
They still exist to this day. I think I've taken you there a few times on Antioch, and the corner of Antioch and College.
Yeah. We have. Yeah.
That's the most nostalgic place for me. That's the place where I feel it seems like so unique to that place. That taste is so unique to there, because they're the ones where the back of the pizza has a little bit of the flour. Like you get a little white powder flour on you when you eat it, which is really interesting. I don't like see that in a lot of other places. I don't feel like, what I'm talking about?
Yeah. What if it wasn't flour, but you just thought it was and you never asked about
Maybe it was just cocaine. Maybe that's why I like it so much.
No, but like what I mean is, like, you know what I mean? Like you're like, oh yeah, that's like a little bit of flour. You're like, you like talk to them about it. You're like, oh man, I always get flour on my fingers from here, and they're like, flour, right? Like we don't use flour. What?
Yeah. Oh. Okay. Like, what do you? No, okay.
I do love it because you can see right where they make pizza, especially at that specific location.
I like that they kept it going too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I've been eating at that pizza place since 2005, and like every time I go back there, I still eat there. I still love it. So.
Yeah, dude. Whenever you came back, what was that when you came back? Like when we had that really cool night where we went down to West Bottoms. Do you remember that? For the
West Bottoms are cool, dude. I didn't think the West Bottoms would be that cool.
West Bottoms is awesome, dude. But what I was gonna say is we went there though, and yeah, I remember you going in. You always say, customer since I can't remember 2000 what?
2005.
Yeah, 2005. That's crazy, dude. That you've been a customer since 2005.
Yeah, dude. Me and my dad and my sister would always eat there. We ate there because the thing is that it used to be I literally think that the Great Mall was only successful for like 10 years. Like it opened up in like 1995. Yeah. It was like 1990s, mid 90s.
Actually, 97.
So even less than maybe 10 or 11 years. So from 1997 to like 2008, after the economic crisis, the stock market crash. After the 2008, they never came back. there was always box TVs up on the wall, the big thick ones.
Yeah.
And in 2008, they used to have brand new like Lexuses parked in the mall. They used to have every food court thing was taken up. Every store was filled with stores. Everything was like filled with like, there was not a single empty place in there. And there was like heavy foot traffic. All the carpet was the same color.
Carpet's famous, by the way, for people who don't know about Great Mall. The carpet is notorious. It was they bought so hard into the 90s with everything. The whole place was like a 90s paradise.
It was stuck in the year that it was built. It's never like, whereas the Oak Park Mall, which was built in 1970s, it was like the 1971, I think I heard someone say.
Yeah.
And that place, they redid that place, completely renovated the entire place like 10 different times. It's like the entryway to Oak Park Mall makes you feel like you're going to Disneyland. Like, it's so beautiful.
It is beautiful. Do you remember when they had what was that tropical cafe they had? Do you remember?
Tropical what?
Rainforest Cafe.
Oh yeah.
Dude,
the Rainforest Cafe.
That was so sad when they left. But no, I was actually going to tell you, I love the Great Mall so much that I actually, whenever I build my film studio, I think I'm going to design it after the Great Mall. Like, I think I'm just going to create a replica of the Great Mall, and it's going to.
That would be so large, so insanely large.
Yeah. I think it'd be so.
I think that the Great Mall signs, should be like a historical landmark for Olathe, because the signs are still up. The big. You know what I'm talking about?
Some of them are, but yeah.
The huge ones where like they're like 4 stories tall, and they have like the metal that goes out and like the cool
the diamond.
Yeah. I'm like, that's like a statue. Like I know. I just think it should be. The thing is, it's weird because I feel like that entire area was developed around the Great Mall. All those restaurants, the hotels, everything was developed around right off the interstate for the Great Mall to exist. And now that the Great Mall doesn't exist anymore, that area is just like this sad like place that retail forgot.
What's crazy about it is that like some of that stuff is still around. Like, it still gets a lot of business.
54th Street Grill is still there.
Well, Taco Bell, you got McDonald's, Wendy's over there. You know what I mean? Because
Taco Bell survived.
Yeah, the Taco Bell survived. They also have a car wash there now, which is annoying and stupid because I'm always like, wow, we don't need more car washes. Like, who sees the world and is like, you know what? I'm gonna bring some beautiful into the world. Earl's Car Wash.
There's always 2 things that when they're building it, I'm always like bummed whenever it's done. Is like whenever they're building something, you're like, oh man, maybe it's a cool new restaurant, or maybe it's like a cool store, like a GameStop or something. Like, I don't know, something. But then when you find out it's a bank, or when you find out it's a car wash, you're like, oh, so that's just a place I'm never gonna go inside. Like, it's a bank that I don't have. It's not my bank. It's just another bank.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm not ever gonna go in there, and I'm never gonna have the money to just throw away at a car wash. Like,
or just like corporate office. I don't know.
An office, a parking garage, or like a office building, like for like an office that you don't know what it is. Like I'm trying to think of a fake like LPD like solutions or something like that.
That's
It's what is that?
It annoys me to no end. Although, like, I feel like the way the world's going is that like we're starting to like want to create spaces where we can just hang out. Like,
yeah, you and me were talking about that before.
I just feel like that's where it's going, is that people are gonna want, like, they're not gonna be tied to like whenever we have a mall next time, like we build a mall, it's not gonna be tied to stores as much as like a communal thing. Like, we go there to like experience things. Like, I remember the Great Mall. Like, towards the end, you're right. Like, after 08, it never got anything back except on 2 times during like the holidays. It was all the time on Black Friday, obviously, but holidays it was hugely packed. Like, I remember on Easter, there was a giant Easter thing. There was an Easter hunt in the Great Mall, and I went there so many times, and I remember like it being a huge deal. There were more people in the Great Mall than I'd ever seen. You know what I mean? For like a long time on this Easter hunt. And that's because I think people want that. They want that like communal space.
Yeah, well, I mean, malls are always going to be designed to make money. Every business is going to be designed to make money.
It's not like you can't make money. I just meant more like whenever you go to a place, right? Like, I remember whenever I was a kid, or even like now with the Oak Park Mall, right? You go there and you're like, oh, I want to hang out with friends. Let's go to the mall and hang out. You know what I mean? Like, it's never like, let's go to the mall and buy a lot of stuff. Now, if we buy stuff, that'll happen. But like, you can design them around making money, but still be more like communal, like through, I mean, how cool would that be if you just went if you went somewhere and you guys just hung, I don't know, like because I think people want to hang out with a lot of people, you know what I mean? Like they want to make friends and stuff, but we don't have a lot of like spaces like that right now. Like we have so many car washes, we have so many Taco Bells.
I feel like people don't meet people at a mall though. Like, you know what I mean? Like whenever
That's why mom and dad met. I don't know if you knew that.
Your mom and dad met at a mall?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fine. They're the two people ever in history. No, but I mean, like most of the time when people go to a mall, they go with their friends. Like I don't know. Like if I see someone at JCPenney, I'm not like.
You know how many? Hold up though. You know how many people I've met at malls? I've met a lot of people at malls.
How does it even work? You're at like a Zoomies.
You just like, yeah. You're telling me you never hit a girl at a mall? Never once walked up to a girl and be like, you know, hey, how's your day? Like, you know, you come here often. Like, you never, not once.
By the time I was 17, I was like 1,849 and so like, or and like, so it's like by the time that rolled around, I was so like defeated and sad that like it was always like a non-option for me, you know. And I ended up meeting my wife online, so it's like everything worked out.
Okay, but how much? Yeah, that's true, right? But how much
worked my way around it?
How much better is it though to like meet somebody in person? You know what I mean? Like me and you met in high school, obviously, but even like other people I've met in person, you know.
High school is such a conducive environment to meeting people. You're forced to be in a classroom with someone for an hour, so it's like we're literally forced to do stuff together. If I see someone at a JCPenney, I'm not like, hey, 1 hour every day we're forced to like play frisbee together. You know what I mean? Like,
do you remember when we went? Actually, I think it was JCPenney or Dillard's. I mean,
Dillard's. Yeah.
Was it Dillard? Is it Dillard's the name? I was getting mixed up. But anyways, when you asked that girl to slap you on camera,
dude, you had convinced me it was such a good idea at the time. It's so bad.
You. So we were shooting this thing. We were shooting this. We were shooting.
For the listeners,
yeah. For the listeners that don't know, we were shooting this movie. This scene for a movie where Ethan's character in the movie gets rejected by a bunch of women. It was like a montage of all these rejections, and so we had this idea for a bunch of different rejections, and we were like, well, where do we want to shoot this at? That would be like quick, fast, right? They would have a bunch of different locations because you don't want to you obviously want a bunch of different locations. You want to make it look like it's taking place over a long period of time. You know, it didn't just happen in one day. And so we were like, well, a mall has a billion different stores, right? There's a lot of people at malls. And we're like, the only problem is we don't have any actresses to like actually reject him. So we were just going to walk up to random women and ask them to reject him for the movie. And we made the mistake of thinking that would go a lot better than it did.
Just walking up to like 32-year-old women and asking them to slap me in the face.
On camera.
Such a bad idea. We thought we were the impractical jokers.
On camera. Do you know? Speaking of that, yeah. And so he goes, hey, I know it's really odd. This is really weird. You can say no, like, don't feel bad, but like, would you be willing to slap me on camera? And I remember her face was like, yeah, I'm not comfortable with that. And I remember you going, all right, have a nice day. Like, you know, and then I remember I was just like walking away and then I was just feeling so like deflated. And then we actually somehow after that rejection that we felt so deflated, we went to Barnes and Noble and then we got a second rejection. And this time it was even worse because it was like, because before we had asked the girl to do it, she was like in like an open space. You know what I mean? Like she could see everybody around her. But then at Barnes and Noble, there was bookshelves that was like, you know, like blocking everybody, you know, so she felt very like isolated.
We cornered her in science fiction and fantasy. And we're like, hey, can you slap me on camera?
Why did we want to get a slap so bad? I totally forget. But yeah, for some reason it was a slap.
It's such a better. There's no cool, uncreepy way to ask a girl to slap you in the face that you don't know.
It's weird because like looking back on it now, there's a much better way we could have gone about this. And we went about it in the worst, creepiest way possible. You know what's worse is that like I was just over there, like it was you, and then I was over there in the corner with like the camera. You know,
like 10 feet away. Like so
like the weirdest dude, I bet. Like it definitely did not it did not encourage her like at all. You know what I mean? Oh man.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like we've had so many ideas for movies and so many like failed attempts to make it. But we're in the process, man. We're in the process of, for the listeners who don't know, me and Bobby are in the process of writing a movie right now. We're at, what is this, script number 3?
Specifically, yeah, but it's funny though, because like some of the stuff we have, like some of the footage we have, do you know when we were gonna make about like Olathe cruisers, which by the way is like so different. Like whenever we do end up making it, it'll be so different than like what what it was at the time. But like
we could get it pretty close, I think.
Well, what I mean is that like just even as like we grow older, and stuff, we're gonna want to make the movie different. But
I bet
that footage that we have where we're like driving around and we're like talking and stuff, that's actually pretty good stuff. That's not bad. I mean, that stuff wasn't that bad, really. I mean, I still have the footage on my broken laptop, sadly. So if I ever get it fixed, I can maybe edit it into something. But yeah, dude.
Maybe, man. I don't know. It's like if I paid someone to make something and that's what they made, I'd be like kind of sad.
No. I mean, is like just for fun. You know what I mean? Like just take it, like as a. And on top of that, though, I think you forget how good some of those like scenes were to some extent, in the sense of like, I mean, I showed them to somebody because they wanted some footage. They were just like, hey, we were talking, and I was like, hey, dude, I have some footage if you want to edit some stuff. And he's like, yeah, sure, dude, just send me the stuff, And I was like, all right, here's what I got. I showed it to him, and he said those scenes of us talking were he really liked them a lot. He never did anything with it, sadly, but yeah, I mean, I think we had a lot of really interesting ideas in that, and I think we still do,
It's just hard. It's hard to get a nice camera. The technology always inhibits like what we want to do. It seems like.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? That's what it feels like constantly. Like it's just, I don't know, just weighs down. Especially in making movies. That's the one thing, is that like making movies has to be the most difficult art ever. Like I'm not like trashing other art forms, but like making a movie is so many moving pieces. You have to have a good story, right? You have to have a good camera. You have to have good audio. Which, by the way, it's not like, and it's not. I mean, that's just already, that's a lot of like effort you got to put into it. It's not just I'm gonna sit down and write a book every day. I got to like work with people to make this a good movie. And it's weird too, because I think the funny thing about when me and you've made movies is that they actually go really well for a lot of it. Like there's a large period of time where I think it goes really well, right? Like when we were doing the Taco Bell stuff, the first video was really good. I showed it to people like it. People think it's funny.
People love that video. I mean, I showed it to friends of mine when I was in the military, and they thought it was hilarious. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a good video. And then of course the second video comes around. You know what I mean? And then the second video was good, but it was just like, I remember how deflated we felt after that, because we were like, such
an abortion compared to the other one.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It was so like, it was so like annoying how like we just didn't get. And it's funny because we made it work, but it just felt like we had put so much effort into it for us to not even get close to what we originally thought we were going to do, that by that point it got annoying. You know what I mean?
The green screen that just was never gonna. It was never ever gonna work.
Do you remember all the effort we put into setting up the green screen too? Like all the effort we went to go out and get that green screen from EMAC.
The camera lens, when you're looking at the viewfinder on the camera lens, it's such a truth teller. Like compared to like, you know what I mean? Like everyone else could be like, no, it'll look great, it'll look fine. But if you're the one looking at the camera and you can see how crappy it looks, you're like, this. I see the writing on the wall, like the scene where it's the truth teller, dude. It's like when I was like, dude, jumping from the parking garage to the wall, and you're like, I can't. It's a black screen, and I'm like, dude, it'll look fine. It'll look fine. And then you're like, it looks like it's painted black. There's no light.
You're talking about that one time when we were up on the roof by JJ's house.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. So there's a scene we had. I'm going to explain it real quick. There's a scene we had for this other. It was part of Olathe Cruisers, I think, actually, which is funny because that's in Overland Park. But we had this scene. There's this roof that we used to go up on top of by this person we were friends with. And we'd go up there and we just look at the stars. We'd go up there with like, sometimes we go up there a couple people. Sometimes we just go up there by ourselves. And so on this one time, though, he's like, let's record that for the movie. We do this in real life. This would be really good for the movie. And so I'm like, yeah, that'd be really good. So whenever we went to go do it, right, we start recording it, and it's all right at first, right? Like it's all right, nothing too bad because there's lights around. Well, right by the place, though, there's not a single light. There's not a single light by that roof.
It's trapped in blackness on either side.
Yeah. And so Ethan's like, hey, dude, hey, this would be really cool. Why don't you record me jumping from this side onto the roof?
Which is like a 5 feet jump, which is like really easy to make in any, like, you know, we've done it before.
It was just like a cool shot to like, and then we'll show us on the roof. You know what I mean? And I was like, all right, go ahead. Like, you know, like action. And he's like, well, how's it look? You know? And I was like, I can't see anything.
It really is the great truth teller, dude.
It's funny because that happened too with the green screen, right? You're like, I was like, yeah, I don't know, dude. It's just the light's not really working. And you're like, the light's not working. Like, what do you like? You know what I mean? I was like, there's not enough light in the thing. And you're like, look how much light this is. I can see it perfectly. And I think we need more light. And you're like, just roll the camera, dude. Just roll it. We'll do it live. But literally, you're right. It's just like, it's so hard. And I think it's really hard to articulate to people how quickly you realize, like, all right, well, we're going to need to change a lot of things because it doesn't look good, like, immediately.
But it's only the person who's looking through the camera who's like, oh, yeah, you're right. Like, this isn't going to, because, like, I think that kind of shows, like, why the director is in charge of everything. Because if the actor was in charge, they'd be like, it looks great. Like, what are you talking about? I can see it. It looks fine. Like,
that's another thing that I really love about movies is that it forces me to think, because the director, I mean, the reason why the director is in charge is because they deal with the actors and they deal with all the technical stuff. So like they have to do both, you know? So it requires you to have such a different mindset than almost anything else. Like if I'm a painter, I can be like, oh, well, maybe I have a model, you know, that I'm painting, but I can just, you know what I mean? I can say whatever I want and then I can paint the model, right? Like I have the technical skill to paint the model. But whereas in film, it's like you have to communicate with people, and then on top of that, you also have to recognize when there's too little light, too much light, and it's just it's like a juggling act, you know. And that's why it's so much fun in so many ways. But dude, I've been on sets where like you get on there and it is, I don't know, and you're like, this is the worst day ever, and then by the end of it, you're like, that was the worst day ever, but it was still. It's kind of like they said in The Disaster Artist. It's still so much better than every other day you can imagine, right? Like whenever you're just doing a normal job, like when we were working at we're working at Jack in the Box, you know, like that's not a fun job. Spoiler alert: working at fast food places sucks. It sucks hardcore because people don't respect you. People don't even care about you. That one dude who came in for the burrito, hey, where's my burrito? Right, and then you literally handed him the wrong burrito, and he's like, "This better be the right burrito. Is it the right burrito?" And you're like, "Yeah, it's the right burrito."
Yeah. I almost wanted to be like, dude, you don't want me to make a new burrito for you right now. It's gonna have pubes and spit and the nastiest things possible in it if I were to make it right now.
But it's funny because people can treat you like that on like a movie and stuff, but like it's not the same. You know what I mean? It's not at all the same because you're always at the same level. Like people will still apologize. Like that guy never apologized to us. That guy had no reason to. He had nobody holding him accountable. He could have gone in and like peed everywhere. And he could have ran out. And I mean, we would probably call the cops, but I don't know how accountable you would have been held for it.
Yeah, dude, that happened when I was working at Jack in the Box one time. I don't know if you were there that day, but there was a guy who just came in and just screamed and like yelled, and like started like knocking over chairs and stuff like that. And I just called the police, and then they came, and then he went outside into the parking lot, and then I don't know if they arrested him or not. I think. Because the thing is, they showed up like 30 minutes later. They showed up so much later. And then, but I'm sure, I don't know what the interaction was like, but I think by the time he was talking to the cops, it was just like, yeah, we had a misunderstanding. I'm like, dude, you were screaming 30 minutes ago. Like right into like our faces.
Because you notice that? When people like come at you, you're like, oh, no, like you're misunderstanding. Like, and you're like, I'm not misunderstanding. Like sometimes you're not misunderstanding. Yeah, like sometimes you are, but like if I was like, hey, I hate you, and you're an awful person, you're like, no, but you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. Like you're not right. Like I
misunderstand that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and you're like, no, you said it. You just said it. That's how that's so funny how you're like, no, we had a misunderstanding. You just came in and screamed. Where's the misunderstanding?
He got so upset. And he wanted to fight us because he cursed in the drive-through on the intercom, like not at us, not like violently, like
Yeah.
at you guys, but he just said it like to the other people in the car. And then we had a thing where our manager is like, hey, if anyone ever curses, you can just refuse service. Because like, and we all already kind of wanted to refuse service because they were being super rowdy, and they were the ones who were like would spend like 11 minutes ordering and like just destroy your drive-through times. And so like the other guy I was working with, just like, hey, we refuse service because you cursed, and that was it. And then he came in to the lobby and just started yelling and screaming and demanded we serve him. And then
we had a misunderstanding.
Then like 30 minutes later, when the cops talked to him, he's like, "Yeah, we just, you know how it is." Like,
but
like,
that's
what?
I think it's funny how like whenever we were working there, I think it's funny how like how much fun it was. Like, it's weird to even look back on it because it really sucked in a lot of ways because we worked overnights. But in other ways, it was really fun. Like, I remember thinking about how like even when it was bad, it was like I knew like, oh man, I got to work with this person today, right? Like, which by the way, I actually like most of my coworkers, but that doesn't mean I was in the mood to work with all of them all the time. You know what I mean? And I think it's funny because I knew though, like, oh well, Ethan will be there. You know what I mean? Like it'll at least be funny. It'll at least be fun to do. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure something positive will occur.
Yeah. It's like, it was funny because like sometimes we'd work with Lily and be like, oh, today's gonna be like a Lily day, and the next day we'd work with like Stefan. We're like, all right, I guess today's working with Stefan now. It's like,
who's that one guy? Who's that one guy who's really positive?
David. He was super positive, and his wife was super negative. Like negative about everything, doom and gloom about everything.
It's kind of funny because that's how I imagine that's kind of how, like, to some extent, that's how like people are drawn together, right? Like he's probably like, I need to be a little more negative in my life because he's so positive. Like he needs that little bit of negativity to like get through his day.
I guess. I mean, maybe. I mean, I think positivity is always. I would always rather be always positive than always negative.
No, for sure. But I think sometimes like okay, like let me put it this way. Sometimes me and you get so overconfident. I remember that one time when you went on that date with that girl from Missouri, and we had planned out how great it was going to go. We had been so optimistic. We had planned, all these things, and literally I don't hear from you for a couple of days. And my thought was that it went so great that like I didn't hear from you.
You thought I lost my virginity. You thought I like had sex with the girl in the hotel or something like that.
Yeah, I thought it went so great that like you're like, I'm gonna move. I'm in Missouri. I've been sleeping in my car for like 4 or 5 days. And
you thought I was just gonna start a new life in Missouri.
Because it was so great. And then of course you're like, hey dude, I got, you're like, hey, you messaged me, and you're like, hey man, can we hang out? I'm like, oh yeah, dude, for sure. Like I'd been waiting for that message. You know what I mean? And you're like, yeah, dude, let's just go to McDonald's or something. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Which by the way, we always go to food places. They're always open for some reason. But anyway, so I'm like, yeah, dude. And then you sit me down, we order food, we sit down, and I'm like, so how did it go? And you're like, well, right. And then you proceed to tell me what it has to be one of the funniest like bad date stories ever. Like,
I kept wanting to like go and like eat food and like have like a formal like lunchtime date because it was about lunchtime, and she's like, let's just go to a park. And then I'm like, okay. And then we met at a park, and she's just like so like not into. I made every effort to like make it a real date, and she did everything she could to make it just like, let's hang out type of thing.
I remember there's just one example where she said, oh yeah, look, it's the summer and I'm moving into my new home. Do you remember that? She's like, oh yeah, I'm moving into like a new home, like over the summer, just for the summer. She's like, and then I'll move back. And you were like, dude, she must have a summer home, right? We were like, that's crazy, right? She must have a
she has a summer home.
That's so crazy. We were like, wow, dude, wow, dude, not like it matters, but that's just really cool, right? Like that's how positive we were with it. We took it in the most positive way possible.
And then we find out that she was just living in a battered women's shelter for the summer in the area. And then we're like, oh, I guess she's doesn't own multiple homes.
It's not funny that she had to live there, but it's funny how positive we were. and how negative it ended up becoming. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, oh, like, you know, like that's awful, but like, what, like we just assumed the best, and then it dropped so low, like so, like it's so quick. It went like so fast. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, and that's what I mean. It's like sometimes when you have somebody who is maybe like a little negative, it makes things like a little more realistic. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure David, I don't know because I didn't talk to David a lot, but I'm sure it helped him get through some. You know what I mean? Like he probably had to like make sure people didn't take advantage of him because he was so kind. You know. Yeah. But David was awesome though. David was awesome to work with. David was always like such a delight to work with. Who's the one who lived with David? Who had the Superman hoodie? Forget his name. Chance.
Chance, I think it was Chance. Yeah, dude. He got on a super. He's the reason why I quit because he got on like a really intense power trip on like literally the first day he was manager. The very first day he was manager, he got on a crazy power trip and like it was like things are changing around here, and I'm like, you as if the way things were running before was like an apocalyptic train wreck. That like people were getting killed and like the restaurant was gonna burn down how it was before, like that's how he made it seem. Like this is, and in reality things were running just fine. You know what I mean? Everyone was kind of just managing themselves, you know, like not really just doing what they had to do. Like I was cleaning everything without being told, just like you and me. Like
yeah, you treated it. I don't think I was there when he became manager, but like you told me about it, and like he just it probably felt like. And I like kind of like what you said, like he was like now that Chance is manager, things are going to be fixed.
As if like the people were getting like fingers in their chili, like at Wendy's or something like that. Like
yeah, they're getting like Kentucky Fried Rat, you know, like
yeah, like
you know,
like, things are not running bad.
It'll be so weird. You know what was funnier though about that? I told you that one time when he made the worst trade ever with me, where we were going through like all the night stuff. He said, "I will do. He's like, I have done the dishes the last like 4 nights in a row. I will do everything if you do the dishes." He said, "I will do literally everything." And I said, "You'll do everything if I do the dishes." And I looked over at the dish and I said, "That's like an hour job." I was like, "You realize that's not going to take me that much time?" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't care." And I was like, all right, dude, deal. And you even were like, dude, why are you doing the dishes? And I was like, Chance made this deal with me. And you're like, he said he'd do everything. Yeah.
I always thought it was funny. It's like, it was always funny. It was kind of like a Drake and Josh situation with me and you whenever we'd go to work for like the temp agency. It was always like me and you got put to different parts of the factory and like, your job was like screwing on like little lug nuts on things, and my job was like lifting pipe over my shoulder, like tearing my clothes, like covered in sweat and dirt. And like you looked and you were like, "Oh, I was just sitting down all day." I was like, the worst. I literally that one day I stacked pipe on pallets, like steel pipe. I like carried it like this.
Yeah.
Like
dude, do you realize? Okay, so you went to lunch. I didn't realize this about like people who work like those blue collar jobs. When we went to lunch, we had like 30 minutes. I'm like, dude, 30 minutes that's easy, right? Like there's a food place 10 minutes away. We'll be good. Dude, it's like 10 minutes to get there, 10 minutes to wait for food, just to get your food. And then 10 minutes on the drive back, dude, where we're literally shoving, like as you're driving, you're like, you were telling me to shove fries in your mouth as we're going. As soon as you get back, we go back to work. And you're like, and I saw you take a burger and just like, I mean, literally, dude, like, crumpled it into your mouth. You literally, you breathed it in like it was air. You're like, you know,
it was made us more stressed out. It made me like pissed off after lunch. After lunch, I was like upset. I was like, like why don't we get more time?
It was. We really should get Freddy's. I don't know why we got confident with the McDonald's, which by the way is literally just across the way. It's like maybe a mile further, not even.
It's just that mile around noon when other cars are out is like a 5-minute difference. I guess I don't know.
It was awful. It was awful. And what's funnier about it too is that like, I don't even think you ate all your food. I think you got like mad at it. You're like, I'm not even. We're here. You were like, I remember we started off almost like it was like an adventure. right? You're like, all right, dude, we gotta go to McDonald's, right? We're gonna get some food. You're like, dude, I'm hungry. He's like, how's your day been, right? Like, we're having great conversation. And then by the time we get our food and then we're on the way back, and you're like, look at the clock, you're like, dude, we're not gonna have time to eat. We're not gonna like the pressure of the situation starts weighing on you, and you're like, and now it's like speed. You know what I mean? You can't go below a certain speed limit, but it's like speed, but you also have to eat food. You know what I mean?
Dude, it was so bad. It was funny because I didn't notice that, because the time before, there was another time where I worked at a place like that where it was like a 30-minute lunch break, like you're saying, and another guy's like, hey, do you want to ride with me? And he's like, yeah, sure. And he had a Mustang, and he was literally like quarter mile, like driving this car, like going as fast as he possibly, like cranking on the brakes whenever he needed to stop, like hitting like smoke coming from the tires, like cranking it as fast as he could. And I was like, holy crap. I was like holding my steering wheel like this, and I was like, dude, it's not that bad. But then I remember thinking like, oh, we had like 10 extra minutes to eat. So it's like, that's why he was like that.
Yeah. Dude, we had like no time, dude. What was funny about it too, though, is that like the next day we go in and we're like waiting there, and they're like, all right, like we'll find you a job. And I'm like, okay, cool. And we like,
it's just a depressing office building.
We're just sitting there, right, like waiting, and like one of the dudes that we saw, remember the guy who like got us into it? One of the dudes that we saw, because we met him at McDonald's, he comes in and we see him, we're like, oh, hey, you know, and then like you just like, we all sit down and we're all just waiting for like our job assignment. And you look over at me and you're like, dude, do you want to go to work today?
Because it was 6 a.m. It was like 6 in the morning.
No, not really. And you're like, you want to go watch The Graduate? We went to your apartment where you lived with your dad at the time, and we just watched The Graduate. And then did we leave to go to Springfield then?
Oh yeah, dude, we left. We went to Lambert's all the way out in Springfield, and
yeah,
we had that pussy throw, like the biggest pussy in the world. The dude who like could not throw 3 feet in front of him. Like
he kept on pump faking people, and then when he threw it, he was like he had no concept of throwing.
Dude, this guy, it made me sad to think that I shared the same gender with this man. Like he was so bad. He was so bad.
Every throw came with an apology. I'm so sorry.
Every throw.
I'm so sorry. Like, just don't. Who put you on the throw rotation? Like, we need to like get you out of here. Dude, you know who put confidence in that guy to throw anything?
I went to that place one time when a guy like beamed it, like pitcher throw it.
I think they might have I think it's like a pitching rotation, you know, like in like baseball. Like, you know, like during the busy hours, they have like the main pitchers, they have like the starting pitchers in. And then like during like the less busy hours, like lunch, they'll put in like backups. You know what I mean? Like, because that dude, I mean, dude, I think I've been there one time where a dude beamed him. I mean, the dude would be by where the freaking bread is made, and he'd be like, boom, you know what I mean? He just slingshot it right to you.
It'd be like smoke in the air, like a smoke stream in the air.
And every time someone dropped it, it was their fault, right? Like they would say, I'm sorry. It would never be him.
He aimed for people's heads. He didn't aim for people's hands. He was like knocking over the baby stands and stuff.
I've seen kids die for rolls. Like, I've seen kids like pull like NFL moves. I seen a kid like a little guy. I seen a little guy, dude. I think he just come from like flag football or something. He was like in his little flag football jersey. And he straight up just freaking like flopped on the like laid out for this freaking roll. And everybody, I remember when it happened, everybody was like, right. And then he just lifts up the roll. He just lifts up like triumphantly. And we're like, you know, and everybody just starts clapping. And we're like, woo!
The funny thing is that there's also another guy walking around with a hot pot of okra and like a spatula. And I remember thinking, you better not put the guy on the wrong job, because if you put the roll guy in the okra, he'll grab it and just start slinging it.
That makes okra. Ah, my face.
I can't catch a spatula full of okra. It's like a Coke guy, like a guy who had like beverage guy, like, hey, can I get some Sprite? And he's like just throws it at you.
Dude, I can't even believe they have an ochre guy. Like ochre guy has the best job. It's you'd either want to be roll guy or ochre guy. Because corn. I feel like it's always corn girl. By the way, I feel like you always like it's always corn girl. It's never corn guy.
Yeah, they know their place. Dude, man, it's been a fun podcast. But
yeah,
I'm gonna stop recording here in a sec, dude. Come back for our next episode. We're putting out one episode a week.
Yeah.
For the Downkirk podcast, and thank you for listening.